are back here again for episode number 14 of the Ravens Way podcast. Back in the groove, back on the grind. Training camp is back. All things are good. All things are good. Boss, how we doing tonight?
Doing great, doing great. Nothing like the smell of fresh cut grass at training camp. We have iron sharpening iron and all kind of different metals testing their density. It's a good time, and I think the Ravens are positioned to be one of the better teams in the league this year. And will they be one of the best? They have a little work to do. Maybe it comes from in-house. Maybe it comes from a little out of the building acquisition. But I'm feeling great. I'm really starting to get geared up into the season now. Just finished a couple fantasy drafts. Starting to get a couple prop bets, future bets put in, and hitting vacation next week. But once I get back from vacation, it's full bore football season. Let's go.
Definitely. I'm pumped. It's great to see those guys out there in shirts and shorts and the shirts and shorts training camp Olympics. It's always a fun time of the year to get a little hype going about the season, and get that Bermuda grass nice and worn in. I think it's always good until it turns yellow in October.
It was a weird year, man, cutting grass. So June, my grass was dead and yellow. And then July, and I'm a vegetable gardener, so I have gardens. It was so dry. I was watering, and then it was just downpours throughout all July. And I have to cut my grass 4 times every 4 days to keep it looking tight these days. It's a weird summer, man. It's been a weird summer.
And unfortunately, it's been hot recently, and it's gonna be hot throughout the weekend. And I'll be there at the stadium practice, and it'll be 95 degrees at 12 o'clock, which is wonderful.
Yeah, man. We're looking forward to your recap from the stadium practice. You can only glean so much from practices in the off season. Really, I think you can kind of take a little bit away from the receivers and the corners and the safeties and the backs and the tight ends. But the trench play is just so, patty cake.
Yeah.
That it is what it is. So, but anyway, I trench play is probably my least concern with the John Harbaugh team. They're always going to be strong in the trenches. So, anyway, feeling pretty optimistic about this season, but still have a couple concerns as well.
Definitely agree with that. If we were to go ahead and dive into it, training camp highlights so far. I would say it seems like David Ojabo and Odafe Oweh are, like you said, you can only get so much out of the patty cake that's going on out there. But, always knocking down passes. Ojabo's using his athleticism that he has, which is something that I was very impressed with coming out of the draft. And then, last year you saw it, the spin move he hit on that on the tackle against the Bengals. I think that's something that's really going to excite me for this year, is those two really getting going here. And outside of that, corners, defensive backs playing well. Foss, what are your thoughts so far? Maybe Oweh, Ojabo defense.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about Ojabo, just like everybody else is. I think he can be a pretty capable, apt replacement for Justin Houston as that designated pass rusher. Approach that 10-sack mark. Let's get in before we get into all that. Let's do a little rundown because we got quite a few guys, Ravens players, starting on PUP and starting on the injury designation. I forget the term. I forget what it's called. But let's go to say J.K. Dobbins, Tyus Bowser, a player that I put a concern mark on in probably 2 episodes ago when he was having a knee issue at minicamp and working off to the side. According to John Harbaugh, it's a compensatory injury. And that's not a compensatory injury that they wanted. They're thin at outside backer. And that's pretty concerning to me. let's get your thoughts on the Bowser and edge rusher situation before we go on to the next guy.
Okay. That does concern me, considering the fact that he was walking in with a wrap around his knee, and he was in a considerable limp, and they did it. It's concerning enough to the point where they brought in someone who can also do the same role with Kyle Van Noy, and they worked him out. So, when you put two and two together, of one's injured, and then they look at somebody else, it usually tells more than they say. Usually, actions always speak louder than words, and that seems like that's something that they're maybe not expecting to have throughout training camp, and maybe into the season it bleeds a little bit. We'll see. But I am concerned. I think that's, like you said, the Ravens are pretty thin at outside linebacker, and
yeah,
it's rough. It's rough. It's not the place you want to be in.
Let's delve into Van Noy, I guess, while we're on this topic. Not my first choice. I think he does have some of that Vince Beagle, Sam ability as far as coverage as well. And I think that does serve a role. But as we talked with Jason on our last episode, the role of the Sam backer should be, hypothetically, his coverage should be a little bit mitigated because they finally have some good safeties. Van Noy, there's Clowney out there, there's Houston out there, there's I think Melvin Ingram. Did he latch on, or maybe mistaken?
He's still out there.
I mean, where do you stack Van Noy in that pecking order?
Third.
Personally.
Third. Houston, Ingram. Brett Clowney. Okay, Clowney, Houston, Ingram, Van Noy.
Man, I'm gonna put Clowney first, to be honest with you, because I think that he would complete. He'd be like
that's what I did. Yeah, I put him first. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a perfect platoon with Ojabo, I think. Yeah, I mean, we're going to see. I think DeCosta's going to add somebody, but is he going to add a bona fide pedigree kind of guy like a Clowney, or is he going to add a Van Noy, or even somewhere further down the pecking order? It just, to me, it's a little bit illogical and counterintuitive to pay up for Lamar, pay up for Beckham, have 5 or 6 one-year contracts, and now that you get to training camp and you have holes in your pass defense, and now we're going to start pinching pennies. I really don't hope we miss this window. But anyway, let's move on to the next guy that's a little banged up is Pepe, presumable front runner for the slot job, although he didn't grade that well last year. Thoughts on Pepe? Thoughts on the cornerback position as a whole? We also have Trayvon Mullen on the NFI list. We've been saying since we started this podcast, corners get hurt more than others, and it's already bearing fruit.
Yeah, it's a stressful position to play, and Pepe getting injured is just another hole that is put in the secondary. But they also brought in Arthur Mollett from the Steelers. So I know you probably wanted to follow that up there at the end, but it's kind of go hand in hand. So that seems like that's going to be the Pepe placeholder for now. But seems like they gave him a little bit of money to chew on, so to say. So maybe he sticks with the 53-man roster, but I really don't have a lot of expectations for Pepe. So him going out, he was out last year most of the time. So I still think corn is a need. Mullen is also on one of the lists, NFI or whatever it's called.
Yeah, not football injury. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just feel like Jeff always says that you can never have too many good corners, and I feel like right now we are on the other spectrum of that. I think we have 2 good corners, and I think everyone else is a question mark. And going hand in hand with the defense, I really don't want Kyle Hamilton being a full-time slot corner. I feel like that's just pigeonholing him.
Yeah. I don't necessarily completely agree with the point on Hamilton, but I definitely agree that you cannot have too many corners. And right now they have 2, and they need 4. And so there's still a way to go. I like the Mollett signing. I think it's potentially a Corey Graham-esque diamond in the rough kind of guy. So at this point, I'm willing to, adjust the need from a slot guy. I think they have enough options in the slot but they need a backup tomorrow, and that's really the pressing issue. Because, and we'll get to this later in the episode when we get to the 5 most crucial Ravens, but you do not want to have a weakness in a cornerback room, and you don't have anybody that can cover. I mean, that's a high impact position. So, yeah, I'm at this point. I'm kind of hoping that they take a look at some boundary cornerbacks, field side cornerbacks, perimeter cornerbacks. Marcus Peters.
They need a Jimmy Smith. They really do. They really need someone that can come in and can play the third corner role here and there.
I 100%, 1,000% agree with that. That's the thing that they've had in previous years that they don't have now, and that's what gives me pause. They paid for insurance on the offensive line with McCary. They paid for insurance at running back with Melvin Gordon, which we'll get to. They paid for insurance at a lot of places. Offensive tackle and cornerback are the 2 spots where you don't want to be caught with your pants down. On the entire field, those are the 2 spots. So a little bit concerned about that. But let's move on to Rashad Bateman. Also starting up the training camp on the PUP. And Harbaugh was talking about it's a compensatory injury. I don't know if that's better or worse. I mean, how do you feel about that?
It concerns me to see him back on that list again. But honestly, I don't think he'll be ready till week 3. We are currently in month 9 of his rehab period of his injury. And 10 to 12 is the expected return date. So you give a month from now, that puts it at 10. Then you give 3 extra weeks in, that puts it at 10 and 3/4. So I think I really don't expect him to play week 1 or 2 or 3 until 3. I think the Ravens are really going to be cautious with him, and I don't blame them. I don't want to rush him back. I know it's weird that you draft the first round wide receiver and they both have Liz Frank injuries, and you kind of just do it in back-to-back years, which is unfortunate. But I don't want to rush him back. I don't think it's a good idea. And you want him from January, but you also want him for the second half stretch of the season.
Very well said. I completely agree with that. Ain't the beer cold when you're not relying on one talented receiver, And then let's go on to maybe the elephant in the room, J.K. Dobbins. Apparently holding in. I mean, when Harbaugh says at the podium, you got to talk to J.K. about that. That's his gentle way of throwing under the bus. So,
yeah.
Thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I love that little phrase by him. You got to talk to the ex-player about it. Yeah, I mean, I could see the Ravens probably giving him some sort of $1 million raise to his contract or something to just get him out there on the field. I could see them caving and doing that. That wouldn't surprise me, and the issue's resolved and they'll go on about it. But when you give Melvin Gordon contract incentive worth up to $3.1 million, what kind of leverage does he really have? You just brought in another capable starting back, but capable is a certain word to put on Melvin Gordon at this point.
Well,
but
he was a worse graded running back in PFF last year. I think I saw 62 62.
Yeah. Like I said, capable is a very friendly term for Melvin Gordon, but you do bring him in and you do pay him a decent upside salary. So JK, I mean, yeah, it's kind of same thing with Bateman. just be ready week 1. If you really want to hold out that bad, then so be it. And Ravens can go pick up Leonard Fournette off the street and be good, or Ezekiel Elliott, or whoever.
Bingo.
But I'm good. I'm cool. I'm not really worried about it. If he really wants to go down this road, so be it. I think this is a little overblown at this point with what he's doing, and I wish him the best of luck in Dallas next year.
I mean, I wish him the best of luck in Dallas this year almost, we've been over this before. What is the running back's impact on the rushing game? And we think that, at least I think, I'm not going to speak for you, I think it's very much predicated on the offensive line and the threat of the quarterback run. And J.K. Dobbins has had gaudy yards per carry averages, but Gus Edwards has too. And I would sacrifice that 20 yards a game on the additional, 6 or 8 carries for more cap space to devote to a more valuable position. So I personally, I think J.K. is making a bit of a mistake. Even running backs with better pedigree and better production than him are getting shunned. And I don't know if you saw what Lamar did, during the offseason, playing hardball, and got probably a little bit more guaranteed money and a higher salary than you would have if he didn't. And JK's thinking, oh, I can do that too. Well, guess what? You guys play polar opposite positions. So I hope JK suits up, but I don't think it really makes that much of a difference in the Ravens' projections. I don't think this whole idea that defenses have to account for a dynamic running back really applies when your quarterback is already Lamar Jackson. And, suit up, don't suit up, trade, don't trade. We're talking about 15 yards a game. So I think that's we touched on Mullen, we touched on Pepe, Bowser, Bateman, and Dobbins. I think we're ready to switch over to some positive signs or negative signs, or any takeaways we have from the first 2 days of training camp.
Yeah. Just to touch on the JK thing last bits, just I don't know, give him $1.25 million raise of incentive.
Nah, that's too much, man. That's too much. Give that $1.25 million to a cornerback.
Yeah, you'll be signing me off the street for $1.25 million. But yeah, to get into the training camp, some positives, like I was saying earlier, the defense is playing well from what it seems. A lot of interceptions going on. The red zone defense with Mike McDonald, and that's maybe something we can get into a different episode of how well he schemes up the red zone defense. I really think he does confuse some teams with the way he schemes up his red zone defenses. The ability to have guys send and pull back, fake blitzing. He does a lot of interesting stuff in the red zone. But all in all, this defense, like you said earlier, I think slot corner has been kind of solved for me. I think Adarius Washington, Brandon Stevens, Millette, Pepe, one of them will be good enough to play slot. And I'm feeling good about it. Now, the only, I guess, thing you could be mad about the defense was Rock Ya-Sin getting a little hesitation from Odell. But that's that's what Odell does. So
yeah, I would I want to caution Ravens fans against believing that Rock Ya-Sin is the same caliber player as Marcus Peters. But I think there is a downgrade there. Anyway, let's stick on the defense. I've been pleasantly encouraged by the reports about Adarius Washington from both, OTAs, minicamp, and now the first 2 days of training camp. I think he may be that solution in the slot. I think you don't necessarily need to have a high pedigree guy in the slot to excel. I still think there are concerns about depth behind Marlowe outside, but I am positively encouraged by Ardarius Washington. I think he, based on what I've seen and the guys I've talked to and the beat reporters and whoever, I think Washington probably has just a little head start, on that job. And I will also say, while we're on defense, the safeties, both the safeties, Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton, have been kind of putting a lid on the offense the last first couple practices training camp, and I'm encouraged to see that. I did have a little bit of skepticism or apprehension about Hamilton on the back end, and so far so good. So that bodes well for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very excited about that. I think that could be an efficiency the Ravens could take advantage of, is maybe playing a little more lid defense, and having the safeties back there, and maybe not so much stress on the corners. If Hamilton can take up that role of being a split back end safety, I think that would do a lot of wonders for this defense. Overall, but overall, like you said, Ardarius, I'm feeling good about him. He's got seniority. He's been here for a while. I feel like he's eventually got as good a shot. He's good. He's good. I like him at TCU. I don't think he's some fourth round. Well, he's UDFA, but I don't think he's some bum.
Well, he had a pedigree. It was just his size that kept him down.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the. Me. I'm draft pedigree kind of guy, but slot corner, I think you can get away with a guy, but I do think that now, as I said earlier, the attention should shift to a quality perimeter cornerback as injury insurance behind Marlowe. You have it at most positions, and cornerback is probably the least or second least position you want to have, unproven depth behind offensive tackle. Those are the two weak link spots. So, hopefully DeCosta continues to uncover some gems. I want to go to Lamar for a moment. Not too much you can glean. Again, we have 2 days of training camp practice so far. Everybody's talking about tempo, and I think that's something we should note. Up tempo. And the thing I really liked about Monken, and this came out yesterday, I believe, on Tuesday, first day of camp, or Wednesday, whatever it was. Monken said he wants Lamar not to be wearing one of those big, flappy wristbands to call the plays. He's going to get the call into his ear, and he wants Lamar to call it and haul it. Call it and haul it. Like I really like that nomenclature right there. Like that's like what football should be. Call it and haul it.
I hate those wristbands, man. They were every time I'm wearing them during the summer, they get so disgustingly sweaty, and then you pull them off and you got to share them with teammates. And the worst ones were the black wristbands. They would get like greasy. It was disgusting. But yeah, like you said, this seems like this offense is paced. It's the energy's different about it, and it seems like the energy in the building, so to say, is different. Even the defense is giving compliments to the offense of how well and how different it is from the Roman offense, which is always good things to hear. And me and you both are pumped about the offense. We really are looking forward to seeing what this offense can do this year, and having Lamar with a lot more freedom. I really do think that this is going to be. I don't know how to put in the words, but like Lamar, I really think Lamar Jackson is really gonna rip the lid off this thing and remind people that, in my opinion, he still is a top 3 quarterback when it's all said and done.
No, let me co-sign that. I'm extremely excited about this offense, but just the way it shakes out, and then there's strong offense and maybe not as strong defense. There's the makings for a very exciting season, a shootout kind of season. You and I both wish they would shore up the pass defense and put some of these teams away in the second half. So far, they don't necessarily have the personnel for that, barring development. But
I had some fun in 2021 when they got into shootouts. That was a fun.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Especially in the first half when we still had a couple healthy
Yeah.
corners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go on to a couple more good notes about training camp, what we've seen so far. And, all reports are glowing about Odell Beckham. He caught a touchdown yesterday. He's as advertised, maybe better than advertised. I do podcasts with Ken Husick fairly regularly. He's been against the Beckham signing. They paid a lot for him, and I've been a Beckham. He was like my favorite player his rookie year, and I had him on all my fantasy football teams. And I'm a preacher wide receiver, so I'm probably a little bit biased that they got him. But it is a big contract. But so far so good. Like he's bringing the energy, he's bringing the tempo. I think, and then Zay Flowers as well. That's the kind of the 1-2 punch right now with Bateman on the shelf. Flowers is putting some good tape out there. Juke and Roquan. You know, I always like to see that, and I'm pretty encouraged about this wide receiving core.
I know you're hate
Thoughts
watching.
on Beckham? What's that?
I said I know you're hate watching out there. As soon as you see a wide receiver on Roquan, and you're like, yeah. Let's show this team why linebacker can't cover wide receivers.
I mean, it's true. Thoughts on your wide receivers in 2 days into camp? Your thoughts?
I'm really impressed by Nelson Aguilar. I think that, he was signed at the beginning of the offseason, and it's kind of a joke at that point, just because that was such a weak move to a larger need. But, the full picture wasn't painted out yet. And he kind of got forgotten. He got forgotten behind Odell Beckham and Zay Flowers. So, he's been out there with Lamar working in the offseason. He's been out there with Tyler Huntley working and all the other quarterbacks working. And all I hear about him is he's working. He's constantly working. He went out there, maybe the best value signing the Ravens made this offseason for dollar. Could happen, could not. Does he overplay the, what was it, $5 million, $6 million we gave him?
Nah, it was like $3 million. It's
$3
like
million.
Kelly Washington, Dante Stallworth, Jacoby Jones. That's like wide receiver 3 money that like in line with what Ozzie used to give out with these guys. And I think it's a really good lottery ticket to buy. The question is probably his hands. It's always been his hands. He's got one of the highest drop rates in the league. He's been drafted. We all know that meme of that guy in Philly that was catching the babies
out of the window.
Right, and he's like, we're catching the babies. They were just throwing them out. We're just catching them. Not like Aguilar, like out of nowhere. It was like in the middle of an emergency, and he's talking about Aguilar's hands. But anyway, one more note on the offense.
Let me real quick. Let me retouch on wide receiver.
Yeah. Go ahead, bro.
I really do think the Ravens got a superstar in Beckham, and I think when it comes, circles back to it, year and a half from now, I think that it'll be well worth it. I really do think that they have someone they can, maybe not. He may not be a 1,000-yard receiver, but like he showed in that Super Bowl. Just the ability to take over a game. I still think he has that. I still think he has that it factor to him, more so than Hopkins does. And that's, I really think that the Ravens made the right decision in the long run. Hopefully he'll stay healthy. We'll have 17 games of healthy Odell Beckham, but I really am ecstatic about that.
Right player, right time. I love to hear DeCosta say that instead of right player, right price. He said right player, right time, right fit. And I love to hear that because they're pinching pennies for $1 million or $2 million here. Meanwhile, they're paying fullbacks and running backs and linebackers and but yeah, I'm I'm really excited about Beckham, and I have him. I'll expand upon my thoughts in our later segment on top 5 Ravens because he's one of mine. But last note I have on training camp until you give me your last note. Big Salah has been getting first team reps at left guard. I'm kind of excited about it. I think they got 3 capable bodies, big bodies, to compensate for Linderbaum's being a little bit undersized, and let the best man win. But if you can get the first round guy, the rookie, first year guy, I should say, the rookie to grab that job, you're all the better for it.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to touch on Engraven commenting. Said Aguilar's a superstar. Engraven, I don't know if there's a bet out there you can put, but I would buy that he may be the second leading receiver at the end of September. That's my bold prediction. I think.
How about November though? How about November?
Nope, absolutely not. he'll be faded out.
So you think Aguilar and Andrews are the top 2 receivers in the first month? Yeah.
Yep.
I can see it. I can definitely see it. I like that
because I think the Ravens paid him. They want to get that contract value, and then of course going into October and into November they'll like slowly fade him out, and then they'll like slowly put Flowers and Bateman in, and then it'll basically be a rework of the receiving group. But Voss, any comment here on Engraven's?
I mean, he is a premium position. I'm. I don't know quite how to respond to that directly. Don't pay Bricard, Queen, and Dobbins, and instead divert that money to Aguilar types because I think they make a bigger impact in the game, and the beta between them and the replacements is smaller than Aguilar. So I don't know. People hate when I say that, but to me, it just feels like common sense. I mean, it's just like it's established at this point.
Maybe we need the Aguilar of corners right now. Maybe Ronald Darby. That's my.
Well, we had the Aguilar of corners last year in Kyle Fuller. But then they just decided, nah, we're just gonna see what happens. Okay, yeah. So they haven't penny pitching a wide receiver to Engraven. I'll give you my quick little synopsis. They've been penny pitching at their premium positions while paying up at the devalue positions since 2012. And they traded Anquan Bolden away for $2 million in cap relief and a 6th-round pick, and took the money that they would have given to Bolden and gave it to Marcus Spears and Chris Canty. And I feel like that kind of sums up the last 10 years of Ravens football. Harbaugh wants to invest in the run game. He's a Bo Schembechler disciple, and he wants to solidify the run. He wants to be a good run team on both sides of the ball, which wins you a lot of regular season games and doesn't win you any playoff games. So I don't know. That's how I see it. You wanna can you back me up on that, or what do you think?
What how Harbaugh operates? I mean,
just responding to Engraven's question.
Yeah, the Ravens have been penny pinching a wide receiver. Most notably last year, when they had one good wide receiver and they didn't sign anybody or draft anybody to replace Hollywood. That was pretty evident, and I think anyone who thinks that the Ravens are fine going into the season with what they had a wide receiver, I think that's little purple glasses. But overall, like you said, probably since Wallace, that's probably the last good wide receiver too they had that was fully healthy for a 17-game season, because Hollywood and Bateman and Sammy Watkins was a good trio, but everyone was in and out of the lineup. But no discussion for another day. But do you have any good?
Yeah, my whole thing is this: like, Why do you need deep depth at the replaceable positions, but you want to just let the young day 3 talents compete at the premium positions? To me, that's ass backwards. That is the wrong way to do it.
It's because of this. It's because of this. You got the punts, you got the kicks, right? And you got that's it. That's the punts and the kicks. That's why.
Yeah, that's about like 6 plays a game. What about the other 60 plays a game? You just want to me. Well, that's the issue, and I really do think, and people want to disagree, but I really do think that, and I'm going to look at the camera with my eyes on this one. The reason the Ravens have regressed in the postseason is because John Harbaugh's influence has caused them to invest in the wrong positions. And that's truth. And that's full stop.
All right. Well, we'll have a John Harbaugh hate episode one time. Maybe like after some terrible loss, we'll just turn into a John Harbaugh hate episode. Anyway.
I think he's going to get – I think this is last year.
I hope so. I really hope so.
I'm going to play my flag on that. I think this is last year. Because I think the game is passing by. But anyway, anything else you saw from training camp you want to touch on before we move on to 5 most crucial?
Down here at the bottom, if you can see my name, number 88.
Mm-hmm.
One in my heart.
It's the last guy on my list. I was teeing you up over there.
He's man. I tell you what, I think I should stop counting rounds 1 and 2 and just go from 3 to 7 and like just look at players through there. I think that's all I should do from here on out. But I he's going out there, and from what I've heard from people that have been at the camp, and of course you can only see so much of the videos, but people get the camp and to have their eyes they can see, and hopefully Saturday I get a good really good look at him. But I'm just saying, look out, look out. I really think that he can have a huge fix to our problem last year with the red zone offense. He 6'7", he's got that massive wingspan, strong hands, doesn't drop the ball. I really think that he can really improve the amount of points that the Ravens can score this year. I think 5 touchdowns. I'll go for it, But other than that, last thoughts, training camp. I think, it's early, second day in, we're good. Thankfully everyone that's important is healthy. And to the people on the PUP and NFI lists and all the other lists out there that are there, come back and come play football because we need you.
Yeah, well said, well said. I will just put a button on training camp to this juncture. I thought it was interesting. I don't think anybody else has made this point. At least I haven't seen anybody else. For the last 10 years, maybe longer, it was like a coach, 1 offensive player, and 2 defensive players for the press conference podium. This year so far, it has been 2 offensive players, 1 defensive player. And I do think that they've reallocated a lot of resources onto the offensive side of the ball, and we should expect more of a shootout season. So just reading the tea leaves here, DeCosta has spent significantly less percentage of the cap and percentage of his cap picks or draft picks on the defense in this season than he has in previous years, and I think that's notable. So we'll see how it plays out. Me, I would like to defund run defense and have a really strong pass defense and have a strong pass offense and, take advantage of the volume of replaceable position players. But that's not what they're going to do. But I think this could be a very exciting season, a shootout kind of season. So we ready to move on to our top 5 most crucial,
Let's do it.
most important. All right, so let's go 5-1, and you tee us off.
5-1. Oh boy, I was hoping 1-5. All right, number 5. I will go Marcus Williams. I think that getting him back healthy and having him out there to be the rangy safety that we signed him as, I think that's going to be a huge boost. Have him for 17 games. That'll be important. Number 4, Rocky Sin. What?
Yeah, let me do my
When you
5
go-
and 4, and then I'll cue
Okay,
you up
we'll go
for
back.
4.
We'll go back and back. Okay.
So, all right. So my number 5, probably controversial. I'm going with Odell Beckham, and he's the only skill position player on my team, on my top 5, I should say. A lot of pass catchers: Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Isaiah Likely, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. You got edge rushers. You got Owe and Ojabo. You got, Travis Jones and Matt Bike. But to me, what he brings is the swagger that they've been missing when they get into a playoff game. And when the going gets tough, you need a guy with a little bit of BD energy, and he has that. So I think he's kind of like he's a big game kind of player. We've already seen how he's almost, sucked the energy out of the room. Lamar's still a star, but at training camp, Beckham's been the bigger star. And that's kind of crazy if you think about it. But I think he's a very important player, not for necessarily his counting stats, but for his leadership, his character, and his giving the team the right mentality. So that's my 5, and you said your 5, and then elaborate on your 4, and then we'll come back.
I didn't get my 4. Okay, well, I'll give my 4 now. For number 4, I'm going to go ahead and go with, I think, Odafe Owe. I think that's my 4. I think he really is going to be important on how far this team goes this year. I think there's a solid chance that he leads the team in sacks. And I'm ready to ride on that. Maybe sprinkle a little DPOY on him. I think that's really going to be impactful for this team. Yeah.
That's a good call. I really consider Owe. I'm with you as far as the hype for Ojabo has gotten a little out of hand, and the hate for Owe has gotten out of hand as well. And hopefully that'll be a nice duo.
I think people forget that Owe had a lot more of a skill set. Well, not that, but he had a lot more of a skill set that could translate coming in the NFL, where Ojabo was a lot more raw and didn't have as many pass rush moves or anything like that. So I think people are over projecting a little bit with Ojabo versus Owe. But good.
Yeah, I know. I agree with that. All right, I'm going to go to my 4. Marcus Williams. I think he's a little bit of the forgotten man in the shuffle. He's cocky AF. He's really like more than a read. Like, he's got that BD energy. He really does. When you have cornerback as a major vulnerability, a rangy free safety is absolutely huge. If you don't have him, if he gets knocked out, you literally can't play. You can't play cover 6 because there's no one else that can split the field. When you put two guys back and he split in the other side of the field, that's no one else can do that on the entire roster. And I really think it's a huge drop off from him to Gino, or I like Gino beside him. Actually, that would probably be my ideal nickel at this point right now. If you're going to say, give me your best week one, what's your best nickel? I would put Hamilton down in the slot and put Gino back there. But if you lose Williams, that's a big problem. And the final point I will make is interceptions are probably the most impactful play possible on a regular down. And he's a ball hawk. And, that is, you can have two gappers, Brandon Williams taking a snack out of a left guard and a center all you want, and they get 2 less yards on a run play, but grab a snare pick, get your hands on a ball. That's a field flipper. That's a game changer. That's what separates the contenders from competitors. And so, yeah, that's why Marcus Williams is my 4th.
Definitely. My 3rd is Ronnie Stanley. It's been a while since we had 17 games of Ronnie Stanley, and I think that's a huge boost to pass protection, along with whoever's going to be playing left guard. To have him next to Ronnie Stanley, next to Tyler Nerbaum, I think that'll take a lot of ease off of him. So, not much else to add besides we need 17 healthy games of Ronnie Stanley. I think that'd be a huge boost to this team.
So Ronnie's also my 3rd. So great minds think alike on that one.
We were really close.
Yeah, bro. I mean, we both know what's up, But Ronnie, I think his backups are better than they were. I will say that. Falele filled in the game last year. He did all right. McCary, they're paying $6 million a year to be his backup. He's decent. They're decent, man. But if Ronnie can get back to that form that he had in 19, not including the playoffs because that wasn't his best game, but 18, 19, the rest of your line can be mid. But if you have good left tackle and Lamar, you can roll the pocket, and that's a massive advantage. Those two in combination. So yeah, Ronnie's my 3rd. I mean, I think his backups will be serviceable, but I think the upside that he brings has kind of a what do you call it? A force multiplier effect.
Yeah.
On the offensive line.
Yeah, rising tides, rise all boats, whatever that.
Rising Ronnie lifts all boats.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I agree with that. It's kind of like what you see with San Francisco with Trent Williams. That whole offensive line isn't the greatest, but you have one Hall of Fame left tackle, and it just changes everything. It really does. And that's not to say Ronnie Stanley's a Hall of Famer, but having an elite left tackle will kind of rise all tides, so to say. He also made us get a 1st-round pick for Orlando Brown Jr. I will say he had a very large impact in that. Orlando Brown Jr. sucks. But anyway, going on to my 2nd most important, that would be Marlon Humphrey. That corner room, like we've touched on probably every episode, is very thin, and it's extremely thin outside corner. And if he goes down and shit hits the fan, so to say, I don't know. I'm not feeling too good about it, and I think some teams could really rip us a new one if Marlon Humphrey went down, and we would, we're talking, getting in a shootout but still losing type of games. I think that's really the possibility with him going down. So I think he's, there's a pretty good argument to be made that he could be the most important of this season, of him going out there and doing even better what he did last year. But yeah.
Great minds think alike again. Ronnie's my number 2. I think we're probably going to have the same number 1, obviously, as well. Marlo is he a top 10 corner? Is he a top 5 corner? We'd like to see him get a couple more interceptions. That would probably cement his place in the top 5. But there's no position on the entire roster where if you lose a guy, his backup is that significant a drop off in talent. as Marlon Humphrey to Jalen Armour Davis or Trayvon Mullen if he's even able to practice or whoever it is. It's a huge position and it's a high leverage position. So that's why I have it at 2. If you have your lockdown corner available, you can do. It gives McDonald a lot of flexibility. If he doesn't, it really handcuffs him tremendously. So that's why I'm at 2. I think you can't lose him this year. I mean, if you lose him this year, this is a wasted season. The way that DeCosta has built the roster around him, and it's like I was talking to Ken on his podcast, McCusick, and he was saying like they should do what the 2000 Ravens did, where like Chris McAllister and Dwayne Starks like were not allowed to get involved in the run game, and like basically put them in bubble wrap just to keep them healthy. And that's when they had 2. Now they only have 1 lockdown corner. So anyway, he's a very crucial, important person. My favorite current player on the team, and really hope he stays healthy. Number 1, I'm assuming it's Morgan Cox's replacement. Is that true?
No, it's Nick Bull's replacement actually. Yeah, Lamar. Lamar's my 1. I think we're on the same page, but hasn't had a healthy season since 2020. And even then, he did miss some game in there for COVID. But all in all, this team will go as far as Lamar will take us. And with the way this defensive back and edge rush unit are playing hand in hand, we may need a Superman performance here or there this season. So he is my most important player. He will always be the most important player as long as he's here. It's just the nature of football.
Yeah, he's my number 1 as well, obviously. He's the best playmaker in the league. He's the best force multiplier in the league. And he plays the most important position in all the sports. So, those are my 3 notes. I don't think that's disputable. They have some difference makers. I just wish that they didn't pay Roquan all that money and they had a difference maker at maybe a different position. But time will tell. In 3 or 4 years, everyone can say, "Hey, Voss, you were right," like they did after the Brandon Williams contract and Dennis Pitta contract and all those other things. I'm feeling pretty good about this team. Joe Burrow apparently popped his calf / Achilles / we don't know what, but if the other team's players' ligaments aren't strong enough to compete in the AFC North, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, if that were Jesus, if that were a season-ending injury, I would want the Ravens to make a power move now and at the deadline if they could. Like that you have 1 team you're looking at. I don't care about Buffalo. I really don't think that team's so overrated.
Yeah, definitely.
But if Cincy went down like that and it's just you and KC, I really would. I'd put what the Rams did to bed. Now I would put out the most disgusting roster moves I could put together. But anyway, I think that just about does it.
But let's give one thought. Let's give one aspiration for the next week of training camp, because I'm going to be out of town next week, so we're going to try to figure something out. But let's give a little preview for the next week. One thing you want to see, just only one.
I just want to keep hearing good reports from the defensive side of the ball. That's all I want. I just want to hear that there's no breakdowns. Everyone's on the same page, I think that's going to be important. I think that's what can maybe lift this team a little bit is continuity on the defensive side of the ball. So that's about it. And then obviously more. I want more Kolar content. I want more. I don't care. I want more. I want him to be 6'7", jumping over guys, making one-hand catches. I want him to be like Crockett Gilmore on steroids.
LFG. Let's go. So to me, I want Jalen Armour-Davis to develop into Anthony Averett. If he develops into second-year Anthony Averett, I will feel much better about this defense. And I've always been on the side of coverage for pass rush. I know it's very debatable, but that's where I stand. And I think the Ravens need coverage because Mahomes is the best quarterback against pressure in the history of the league. And I think they're going to need some coverage. And if Jalen Armour-Davis, he's probably the only guy with Mullen on NFI that has the physical talent to emerge into an above-average bounded corner. So that's what I hope to see in the next week or two.
Definitely. But appreciate Engraven for joining and commenting as always, and we will hopefully see you guys next time. Peace.